r/NoSleep. Posted by u/aided14. My teacher handed me a set of rules whilst staying in his class. Now I know the horrifying truth behind it. Part 2. Can you help me with something? I rubbed the sleep from my eyes, barely processing what just happened. I knew exactly who that person was. It was the wailing girl. She was seated next to Elijah, her blonde hair draped over her upright shoulders. Elijah did not hesitate to ignore her. I looked down at the sheet of paper that was tightly held in my hands. It read: a list of rules for staying in 9C. 1. Do not be late. If the door is shut, that means you are no longer allowed to enter the classroom and accept the consequences behind it. You shall not be saved. 2. Do not look, touch or interact with the wailing girl. If she bothers you, ignore her. If she screams at you, walk away. If she is crying, move yourself far away from her as possible, no matter what the circumstances are. 3. You must bring the following items to class: at least 2 torches, a mirror, and the key to access the back door in the classroom. If you do not bring any of these items into class, you won't be saved. 4. Do not look at any window. No matter how much it tells you that you're safe. It doesn't matter how much it persists or begs you to the point where you want to eventually give in. Do not look at the window. 5. If a teacher named Mr. Larson takes over the remainder of your lesson, you must leave immediately. Run to the shelf that is at the back of the classroom. Grab the keys and head to the back door. This will slow it down for a while, but at least you're safe then. 6. The boy on the trike. If you come across the boy on the trike, you'll be fine. That is as long as you don't make him angry. If anything happens, follow up to Rule 6A. 6A. Every entity that you come across has a trance. Do not ruin his trance. He always goes the same direction. Round in circles on a trike. If he is blocking the hall, find another route. If you anger him, he will stop and follow you. Walk slowly. Any sudden movement, he will pick up his pace on his trike. And if you anger him anymore, well, no one knows what happens after that. Make sure you check the right door to escape. If any exit door is red, orange or pink, that is wrong. The exit is colored green. You must continue to find the exit and you will come across many entities which I have not written rules about. You're on your own. I lifted my head up. That was when a sharp creak overlapped the cold silence. New students flooded into Mr. Larson's classroom. Each child that took their designated seats, depending on where Mr. Larson strictly pointed, did not look appealing. It was within minutes before Mr. Larson took the chalk from the board. He then hastily wrote his name down. It read, Mr. Larson. I couldn't move. My eyes lingered to the sheet of rules and the name on the board. I rose upwards, unable to stop the violent shaking in my hands. Elijah stared at me as my hands began moving. I did a quick hand gesture in sign language telling Elijah to come. As soon as Elijah rose up from his seat, we bolted towards the shelf at the back of the classroom and I snatched the key from it, the sharp ends digging into my palms as my breathing became more agitated. Trembling, I managed to pull both me and Elijah into the room and slamming the metal door behind us. The dim lights flickered on. Silence. Bang. Bang. Hey you two, what is going on? A soft voice resonated through the door as we both held ourselves together. None of us moved. What are your names? I would like to know, and I would also like to remind you two that any unprofessional behavior is not tolerated in my classroom. The voice sternly said back. Bang. We both knew that this was not Mr. Larson. Nothing in this room could kill us, right? Bang. The repeated pounding on the door and the sound of rattling coming from the handle alerted us that we had to find a way to escape before Mr. Larson got us. How did you know we had to leave? Elijah faintly whispered as I was on the edge of forgetting his voice after so many long hours of us not talking to one another. It's on the rules list. See check. I replied back with a small whimper as my head turned around looking for an exit. Let me see yours. Elijah quickly demanded as I shakily gave him my list of rules. What? This is not right, Elijah gasped as he showed me both papers which were completely different from the other. How come your paper has rules that I don't have? Elijah began trembling, he then swallowed and I said. I'm not sure, but I do know that whoever made your list of rules purposely wanted to kill you. I uttered back, glancing at my rules and Elijah's. I look across the room, a small source of light both alerted us as we realized what we were looking at. A vent. Both of us scrambled to the back of the room and tried to open the vent up. The lid clattered on the floor as we examined if we can fit inside. Elijah went first and I went after. The screeching slowly descended as we crawled deep into the vent, hoping that we come across some sort of escape route. A few moments passed before Elijah stopped. He glanced at the other vent door that showed a room filled with complete darkness. He slowly inserted his small fingers into the holes of the vent door. My breathing increased as I followed Elijah out of the vent. Blang. The blanket of chilling darkness evaporated and died as the lights were turned on. We quickly took in the place, which was the female's bathroom. We both exchanged smirks. We then peered on the side of the sink, and to our pure surprise there was a single flashlight that was evenly placed. We both quietly walked towards it. I pulled out my rules list and gave it to Elijah, showing him the rules of how we can escape. I placed a finger on my lips and a hand behind my ears, making him know that we must be quiet and careful. We should also listen to any noise. We can't talk or do anything that may alert them because they are watching. Always watching. I wrapped my hand around the door and opened it. Elijah then poked his head out, looking in both directions. He then nodded that it was clear. We gradually walked down the hall, turning a right and reciting the exit door, which was a couple turns and steps ahead. My heart jolting in my chest as I tried maintaining my breathing. We turned several corners. We then turned the last corner where the exit was. Squeak. 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 I held my hand up hard to block Elijah from walking. I felt as if all the air out of my lungs were trapped inside. The sweat trickled down my pale face, smelling the crisp, ghastly presence that exuded out of my trembling body. Squeak. Squeak. The small bike was moving around in a large circle, as we both spotted a little child clutching the yellow handles. The thin, ginger hair stuck to each colorless cheek as its eyes were buried down. The trike exhaled squeaks as it moved in the same direction. Continuously. We had to take another route. Squeak. We turned around to depart and find another exit out. I grabbed my hand and slammed it across my mouth to stop the horrific sound that was creeping up through my throat. I couldn't stop myself from trembling as I peered at the obscurity, chilling figure that bent down to our faces. Crash. The halls went into a docile state as the only thing that I could possibly hear was the fast repeated beat in my chest which froze each fragment of my body. The torch laid in the thick ocean of darkness, the only remaining source of light slowly flickered into a sleeping trance. Elijah peered behind us, grabbing my arm and dragging me across the hallway. The unusual face that was staring into me was now gone. Squeak. The boy was following us as we fixed our pace of running into walking. We had to get out of here. I believe that I felt a set of eyes were watching us at that moment, as Elijah hurriedly dragged us into corners and long hallways that edged on for minutes, large stairs that had more steps than before. The squeaks behind us were becoming more faster as we picked up our pace, and soon we were running to find an exit, anywhere. To our pure relief we found a painted green exit, as we ran with all our might down the long hall and grabbing the door open and a cool breeze slapped our faces. We darted across the silent streets, our legs giving up as we finally made our way to the large building which had police station at the top of it. There was a group of men at the front desk who were laughing and drinking. The smell of coffee, sugar and sweat tingled our noses as we entered the station. All eyes were focused upon us. Each man exchanged looks of complete horror and confusion at our appearances. "Hello, how may I help you?" A large rosy man stood up from his seat and made his way towards us. The white specks of hair tucked behind his wrinkled ears, he had a small, gray-black mustache and was wearing the police uniform with a golden star on the side which read, "Chief of Police." We did not know where to start. We just slowly began to burst out crying as the group of men approached us and continued to question what had happened. The old man ushered the rest of the group to go home as he will sort this out. Soon enough, we were sitting on a large sofa shoving small cakes and sipping milk down our throats as the old man plainly smiled at us. He then glanced at each of our clothing and shoes, frowning. "See, can you please call our moms?" I finally asked, as the man got up and sat at the far end of the room near a pastel-colored computer. He then began to type for a while before questioning us. "How old are you two children?" the man asked gravely, clearing his throat. "We are both 8 years old, sir," Elijah added as he sat up in his seat. "What is your name, boy?" The man pointed at Elijah as he glanced at him back and said, "Elijah Pierce." The man then quickly typed up something on the computer as we both stood up. "And your name?" He pointed at me as I replied, "Jonas. Jonas Valor." The man finished typing as he frowned. The words hushed out of the man as my body began to shake. This can't be correct. There is no record of two children named Elijah Peace and Jonas Valor in this entire year. What? Are you kidding? B. Because it's not foo. Do I know you kids from somewhere? Before we could comprehend what he asked us, a loud clatter came from the front door of the station and a man entered. The man walked through the door and glanced at us for a few seconds, then looked at the chief. What is going on? Small lines of gray hair were evenly spread out from ends of his head. The man wore black jeans and black leather jacket. His hands clasped together as he glared at the man on the computer. Well, it seems that these two children appeared out of thin air. Take a look at this, Jim. The man shuffled out of his chair with a groan as the other gentleman walked towards him. What? That can't be real. Right? Jim questioned as he looked at the screen of the computer, then at us. He then stopped. The vibrant colors of his cheeks and body slowly deteriorated as his dark eyes were fixated upon us. Gaping his mouth open, he tried to say something, but all the words were somehow taken away from him, leaving the man whimpering and shaking. W. Wyatt. The voice was sort of faint as the man gradually lifted himself up from the chair and held the table for support. What is it, Jim? You're scaring the children, Wyatt whispered as he placed a hand on Jim's shoulder. Why, you remember 1943? He questioned as Wyatt heavily sighed, wiping his fingers across his head and eyes as he uttered. Of course I remember 1943. Why? Why do you ask? W. What are your names? Jim asked the both of us as we stood looking at the face filled with grief and another filled with shock. My name is Jonas Valor, I said back, my mind filled with deep confusion. My name is Elijah Pierce. You remember? Why, you remember what happened in 1943. Everybody thought those parents were going insane. Jim chuckled as he sat down on the sofa near the entrance door. I know you too. And both of you know me, and us. Don't you? The man pointed at Elijah and me as a look of confusion and fear lingered in the air. Jim, what are you talking Abu? I have known Wyatt Thompson for 38 years. Nothing more unusual ever happened in 40 Hendry. Nothing like the case of 1943. When me and Wyatt were your age. We saw the whole case kick off. W. What are you saying, sir? I don't understand. Elijah muttered as he looked at Jim and Wyatt, who were stunned by us. We never stopped searching for them. But now we believe that we are looking at the same children that were sinisterly abducted in 1943.